Hi guys, welcome back for another edition of Snack Time with a Dollop of Read Aloud. I thought before we'd start I'd show you some more of our Lego counterparts for today's reading. I forgot to show you Ollivanders yesterday. So this is Ollivander's wand store, but I thought since I included that little Lego video, you might enjoy seeing it in real life. So here's inside the store, and if you notice up here is good old Mr. Ollivander looking out the, oops, he doesn't want to come out, but here's Mr. Ollivander that was starring in that little video that we were watching. And here's all of his wands, stick them here, here's all of his wands up there, ready for everyone to start looking at and to get their new wands. So I thought that was kind of cute. I thought I'd share it with you. And then here is going to be the star of this chapter. Dun, dun, dun. The Hogwarts Express. There you go. The Hogwarts Express. This is another one of the sets that my boys put together, but I thought it's always kind of fun to see it in Lego form. If I can find any more little Lego videos, I will include them in our clips for helping you envision. And I just think it's kind of fun too. All right, so here we go. Chapter 6. Let's close this for right now. Chapter 6. A journey from platform 9 3/4. There you go. And that is a frog. That's a chocolate frog. Harry's last month with the Dursleys wasn't fun. True, Dudley was now so scared of Harry that he wouldn't stay in the same room, while Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia didn't shut Harry in the cupboard, force him to do anything. Or shout at him. In fact, they didn't speak to him at all. Half terrified, half furious, they acted as though any chair with Harry in it were empty. Although this was an improvement in many ways, it did become a bit depressing after a while. Harry kept to his room with his new owl for company. He had decided to call her Hedwig, a name he had found in a history of magic. His school books were very interesting. He lay on his bed reading late into the night, Hedwig swooping in and out of the open window as she pleased. It was lucky that Aunt Petunia didn't come in to vacuum anymore, because Hedwig kept bringing back dead mice. Every night before he went to sleep, Harry ticked off another day on a piece of paper he had pinned to the wall, counting down to September the 1st. He's very excited. On the last day of August, he thought he'd better speak to his aunt and uncle about getting him to King's Cross Station the next day. So he went to the living room where they were watching a quiz show on television. He cleared his throat to let them know he was there, and Dudley screamed and ran from the room. Uncle Vernon grunted to show he was listening. I need to be at King's Cross tomorrow to go to Hogwarts. Uncle Vernon grunted again. Would it be all right if you gave me a lift? Grunt. Harry supposed that meant yes. Thank you. He was about to go back upstairs when Uncle Vernon actually spoke. Funny way to get to a wizard's school, the train. Magic carpets all get punctured, have they? Harry didn't say anything. Where is this school anyways? I don't know, said Harry, realizing for the first time he pulled the ticket Hagrid had given him out of his pocket. I just take the train from platform 9 3/4 at 11 o'clock. His aunt and his uncle stared. Platform what? 9 3/4, he responded. Don't talk rubbish, said Uncle Vernon. There's no 9 3/4. It's on my ticket. Barking, said Uncle Vernon. Howling mad, the lot of them. You'll see. Just you wait. All right. We'll take you to King's Cross. We're going to London tomorrow anyways. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother. Why are you going to London? Harry asked, trying to keep things friendly. Taking Dudley to the hospital. Gotta get that bloody tail removed before he goes to Smeltings. Harry woke at 5 o'clock the next morning and was too excited and nervous to go back to sleep. He got up and pulled on his jeans because he didn't want to walk into the station in his wizard's robes. He changed on the train. He checked his Hogwarts list yet again to make sure he had everything he needed. He saw that Hedwig was shut safely in her cage and then paced the room, waiting for the Dursleys to get up. 2 hours later, Harry's huge, heavy trunk had been loaded into the Dursleys' car. Aunt Petunia had talked Dudley into sitting next to Harry, and they set off. They reached King's Cross at 10:30. Uncle Vernon dumped Harry's trunk onto the cart and wheeled it into the station for him. Harry thought this was strangely kind until Uncle Vernon stopped dead, facing the platforms with a nasty grin. "Well, there you are, boy. Platform 9 and Platform 10. Your platform should be somewhere in the middle. But they don't seem to have built it yet, so good luck." He was quite right, of course. There was a big plastic number 9 over one platform and a big plastic number 10 over the one next to it, and in the middle there was nothing at all. "Have a good term," said Uncle Vernon with an even nastier smile, and he left without another word. Harry turned and saw the Dursleys drive away. All three of them were laughing. Harry's mouth went rather dry. What on earth was he going to do? He was starting to attract a lot of funny looks because of Hedwig. He'd have to ask someone soon. He stopped a passing guard who didn't dare mention platform 9 3/4. The guard had never heard of Hogwarts, and when Harry couldn't even tell him what part of the country it was in, he started to get a little bit annoyed. As though Harry was being stupid on purpose. Getting desperate, Harry asked for the train that left at 11 o'clock, but the guard said there wasn't one. In the end, the guard strode away, muttering about time wasters. Harry was now trying hard not to panic. According to the large clock over the arrival boards, he had 10 minutes to get on the train to Hogwarts, and he had no idea how he was going to do it. He was stranded in the middle of the station with a trunk he could hardly lift, a pocket full of wizard's money, and a large owl. Hagrid must have forgotten to tell him something you had to do, like tapping a third brick or on the left to get into Diagon Alley. He wondered if he should get out his wand and start tapping the ticket inspector's stand between platforms 9 and 10. At that moment, a group of people passed just behind him, and he caught a few of the words that they were saying. "Packed with muggles, of course." Harry swung around. The speaker was a plump woman who was talking to 4 boys, all with flaming red hair. Each of them was pushing a trunk like Harry's in front of him, and they had an owl. Heart hammering, Harry pushed his cart after them. They stopped, and so did he, just near enough to hear what they were saying. "Now, what's the platform number?" said the boy's mother. 9 3/4, piped a small girl, also red-headed, who was holding her hand. "Mom, can I go?" "You're not old enough, Ginny. Now be quiet." "All right, Percy, you go first." What looked like the oldest boy marched towards platform 9 and 10. Harry watched carefully not to blink in case he missed it. But just as the boy reached the dividing barrier between the two platforms, a large crowd of tourists came swarming in front of him. And by the time the last backpack had cleared away, the boy had vanished. "Fred, you're next," said the plump woman again. "I'm not Fred, I'm George," said the boy. "Honestly, woman, you call yourselves our mother. Can't you tell I'm George?" "Oh, sorry, George, dear. I'm only joking. I'm Fred," said the boy, and off he went. His twin called after him to hurry up, and he must have done so because, a second later, he too was gone. But how had he done it? Now the third brother was walking briskly towards the barrier. He was almost there, and then quite suddenly, he wasn't there anymore. There was nothing else for it. "Excuse me," Harry said to the plump woman. "Hello, dear. First time at Hogwarts? Ron's new, too." She pointed at the last and the youngest of her sons. He was tall and thin and gangly, with freckles, big hands and feet, and a long nose. "Yes," said Harry. The thing is, I don't know how to get onto the platform," she said kindly, and Harry nodded. Not to worry, she said. All you have to do is walk straight at the barrier between platforms 9 and 10. Don't stop and be scared you'll crash into it. That's very important. But best do it at a bit of a run if you're nervous. Go on. Go now before Ron. Okay. He pushed his trolley around and stared at the barrier. It looked very solid. He started to walk towards it. People jostled him on the way to platforms 9 and 10. Harry walked more quickly. He was going to smash right into the barrier, and then he'd be in trouble. Leaning forward on his cart, he broke into a heavy run. The barrier was coming nearer and nearer. He wouldn't be able to stop. The cart was out of control. He was a foot away. He closed his eyes, preparing for the crash, and it didn't come. He kept on running. He opened his eyes. A scarlet steam engine was waiting next to the platform packed with people. A sign overhead said Hogwarts Express, 11 o'clock. Harry looked behind him and saw the wrought iron archway where the barrier had been, with the words Platform 9 3/4 on it. He had done it. Smoke from the engine drifted over the overheads of chattering crowds, while cats of every color wound here and there between people's legs. Owls hooted to one another in a disgruntled sort of way over the babble and the scraping of their heavy trunks. The first few carriages were already packed with students, some hanging out of the window to talk to their families, some fighting over seats. Harry pushed his cart off down the platform in search of an empty seat. He passed a round-faced boy who was saying, "Gran, I've lost my toad again." "Oh, Neville," the old woman sighed. A boy with dreadlocks was surrounded by a small crowd. "Gotta give us a look, Lee. Go on." The boy lifted the lid of a box in his arm, and the people around him shrieked and yelled as something inside poked out a long, hairy leg. Harry pressed on through the crowd until he found an empty compartment near the end of the train. He put Hedwig inside and then started to shove and heave his trunk towards the train door. He tried to lift it up the steps, but he could hardly raise one end and twice dropped it painfully on his foot. Want a hand? It was one of the red-headed twins who he followed through the barrier. "Yes, please." "Ah, Fred, come here and help." With the twins' help, Harry's trunk was at last tucked away in the corner of a compartment. "Thanks," said Harry, pushing his sweaty hair out of his eyes. "What's that?" said one of the twins, suddenly pointing at Harry's lightning scar. "Blimey," said the other. Blimey is like, oh my gosh. "Blimey, are you?" "He is," said the first twin. "Aren't you?" he added to Harry. "What?" said Harry. "Harry Potter," chorused the twins. "Oh, him. Yes, I am." The two boys gawked at him, and Harry felt himself turning red. Then, to his relief, a voice came floating in through the train's open door. "Fred! George! Are you there?" "Coming, Mom." With a last look at Harry, the twins hopped off the train. Harry sat down next to the window, where, half hidden, he could watch the red-headed family on the platform and hear what they were saying. Their mother had just taken out her handkerchief. "Ron, you've got something on your nose, dear." The youngest boy tried to jerk out of the way, but she grabbed him and began rubbing the end of his nose. "Mom, get off!" He wiggled free. Has Ickle Ronnie have something on his nosy?" said one of the twins. "Shut up," said Ron. "Where's Percy?" said their mother. "He's coming." The oldest boy came striding into sight. He had already changed into billowing black Hogwarts robes, and Harry noticed a shiny silver badge on his chest with a letter P on it. "Can't stay long, Mother. I'm up front with the prefects. Have gotten 2 compartments to ourselves." "Oh, are you a prefect, Percy?" said one of the twins with an air of surprise. "You should have said something. We had no idea." "Hang on, I think I remember him saying something about it," said the other twins. "Once. Or twice. A minute all summer." "Oh, shut up," said Percy, the prefect. "How come Percy gets new robes anyway?" said one of the twins. "Because he's prefect," said their mother fondly. "All right, dear. Have a good term. Send me an owl when you get there." She kissed Percy on the cheek and he left. Then she turned to the twins. "Now you two. This year, you must behave yourselves. If I get one more owl telling me you've blown up a toilet or... Blown up a toilet? We've never blown up a toilet. Great idea. Thanks, Mom. It's not funny, she said. Look after Ron. Don't worry. Ickle Ronnikins is safe with us. Shut up, said Ron again. He was almost as tall as the twins already, and his nose was still pink from where his mother had rubbed it clean. Hey, Mom, guess what? Guess who we just met on the train? Harry leaned back so quickly so they couldn't see him looking. You know that black-haired boy who was near us in the station? Know who he is? Who? Harry Potter. Harry heard the little girl's voice. Mom, can I go on the train and see him, Mom, please? You've already seen him, Ginny, and the poor boy isn't something to goggle at like in a zoo. Is he really, Fred? How do you know? Asked him. Saw his scar. It's really there, like a lightning bolt. Poor dear. No wonder he was alone. I had wondered. He was ever so polite when he asked how to get onto the platform. Never mind that. Do you think he remembers what you-know-who looks like? Their mother suddenly became very stern. I forbid you to ask him, Fred. Don't you dare. As though he needs reminding of that on his very first day of school. All right, keep your hair on. A whistle sounded. Hurry up, their mother said, and the three boys clambered onto the train. They leaned out the window for her to kiss them goodbye, and their younger sister began to cry. Don't, Ginny. We'll send loads of owls. We'll send you a Hogwarts toilet seat, in fact. George? Only joking, Mom. The train began to move. Harry saw the boy's mother waving and their sister half laughing, half crying, running to keep up with the train until it gathered too much speed, and then she fell back and waved. Harry watched the girl and her mother disappear on the train as it rounded the corner. Houses flashed past the window. Harry felt a great leap of excitement. He didn't know what he was going to do, but it had to be better than what he was leaving behind. The door of the compartment slid open, and the youngest red-headed boy came in. Anyone sitting here? He asked, pointing at the seat opposite Harry. Everywhere else is full. Harry shook his head, and the boy sat down. He glanced at Harry, and then he looked quickly out the window, pretending he hadn't looked. Harry saw he had still a little bit of a black mark on his nose. Hey, Ron. The twins were back. Listen, we're going down to the middle of the train. Lee Jordan has a giant tarantula down there. Right, mumbled Ron. Harry, said the other twin, did we introduce ourselves? Fred and George Weasley. And this is Ron, our little brother. See you later, then. Bye, said Harry and Ron. The twins slid the compartment door shut behind them. Are you really Harry Potter? Ron blurted out. Harry nodded. Oh, well, I thought it might be one of Fred and George's jokes. And have you really got the you-know-what? Harry pointed at his forehead. Harry looked back, or pulled back his bangs to show the lightning scar, and Ron stared. So that's where you-know-who... Yes, said Harry, but I don't remember any of it. Nothing? Said Ron eagerly. Well, I remember a lot of green light, but nothing else. Wow, said Ron. He sat and stared at Harry for a few moments. Then, as though he had suddenly realized what he was doing, he looked quickly out the window again. Are all your family members wizards? Asked Harry, who found Ron just as interesting as Ron found him. I think so. I think Mom's got a second cousin who's an accountant, but we never talk about him. So, you must know loads about magic already. The Weasleys were clearly one of those old wizarding families the pale boy in Diagon Alley had talked about. I heard you went to live with Muggles, said Ron. What are they like? Horrible. Well, not all of them. My aunt and uncle and cousin are, though. Wish I had three wizard brothers to keep me company. 5, said Ron. For some reason he was looking gloomy. I'm the 6th in our family to go to Hogwarts. You could say I've got a lot to live up to. Bill and Charlie have already left. Bill was head boy. Charlie was captain of the Quidditch team. Now Percy's a prefect. Fred and George, they mess around a lot. But they still got They still get really good marks, and everyone thinks they're really funny. They have lots of friends. Everyone expects me to do as well as the others, but if I do, it's no big deal because they all did it first. You never get anything new either with 5 brothers. I've got Bill's old robes, Charlie's old wand, and Percy's old rat. Ron reached into his jacket and pulled out a fat gray rat which was asleep. His name is Scabbers, and truthfully, he's useless. He hardly ever wakes up. Percy got an owl from my dad for being made prefect, but they couldn't have, I got Scabbers instead. Ron's ears went pink. He seemed to think he had said too much, but he went back to staring out the window. Harry didn't think there was anything wrong with not being able to afford an owl. After all, he had never had any money in his life until a month ago, and he told Ron so. All about having to wear Dudley's old clothes and never getting proper birthday presents. That seemed to cheer Ron up. And until Hagrid told me, I didn't even know anything about being a wizard or my parents or even Voldemort. Ron gasped. What? Said Harry. You said you know whose name? Said Ron, sounding both shocked and impressed. I'd have thought you of all people. I'm not trying to be brave or anything, saying the name. I just never knew you shouldn't. See what I mean? I've got lots to learn. I bet, he added, voicing for the first time something that had been worrying him a lot lately, I bet I'll be the worst in the class. You won't be. There's loads of people who come from Muggle families and they learn really quick. While they had been talking, the train had carried them out of London. Now they were speeding past fields full of cows and sheep. They were quiet for a minute, watching the fields and lanes flick past. Around 12:30, there was a great clattering outside the corridor, and a smiling, dimpled woman slid back their door and said, Anything off the carts, dears? Harry, who hadn't had any breakfast, leapt to his feet, but Ron's ears went pink again, and he muttered that he had brought a sandwich. Harry went out into the corridor. He had never had any money for candy with the Dursleys, and now that he had pockets rattling with gold and silver, he was ready to buy as many Mars bars as he possibly could carry. But the woman didn't have Mars bars. What she did have were Bertie Bott's every flavored bean, Droobles, best blowing gum, chocolate frogs, pumpkin pasties, cauldron cakes, licorice wands, and a number of other strange things that Harry had never seen before in his life. Not wanting to miss anything, he got some of everything and paid the woman 11 silver sickles and 7 bronze canucks. Ron stared at Harry as he brought it all back into the compartment and tipped it onto the empty seat. Hungry, are you? Starving, said Harry, taking a big bite of a pumpkin pasty. Ron had a lumpy package and unwrapped it. There were 4 sandwiches inside. He pulled one of them apart and said, She always forgets that I don't like corned beef. Swap you one of those for these, said Harry, holding up a pasty. Go on. You don't want this? You don't want this. It's all dry, said Ron. She hasn't got much time, with the 5 of us. Go on and have a pasty, said Harry, who had never had anything to share before, or indeed anyone to share it with. It was a nice feeling sitting there with Ron, eating their way through all Harry's pasties, cakes, and candies. The sandwiches lay forgotten. What are these? Harry asked Ron, holding up a pack of chocolate frogs. They're not really frogs, are they? He was starting to feel that nothing would surprise him. No, said Ron. But see what the card is? I'm missing Agrippa. What? Of course, you don't know. Chocolate frogs have cards inside them, to collect. Famous witches and wizards. I've got almost 500, but I haven't gotten Agrippa or Fatamali. Harry unwrapped his chocolate frog and picked up a card. It showed a man's face. He wore half-moon glasses and a long crooked nose and flowing silver hair, beard, and mustache. Underneath the picture was the name Albus Dumbledore. So this is Dumbledore, said Harry. Don't tell me you've never heard of Dumbledore, said Ron. Can I have a frog? I might get Agrippa. Thanks. Harry handed over the card and read, Albus Dumbledore, currently headmaster of Hogwarts, considered by many the greatest wizard of all time. Dumbledore is particularly famous for his defeat of the dark wizard Grindelwald in 1945 for the discovery of the 12 uses of dragon's blood and his work on alchemy with his partner Nicholas Flamel. Professor Dumbledore enjoys chamber music and 10-pin bowling. Harry turned the card back over and saw to his astonishment that Dumbledore's face had disappeared. He's gone. Well, you can't expect him to hang around all day, said Ron. He'll be back. No, I've got Morgana again. I've got about 6 of her. Do you want it? You can start collecting. Ron's eyes strayed to the pile of chocolate frogs waiting to be unwrapped. Help yourself, said Harry. But in, the Muggle world, people just stay put in pictures. Do they? What? They don't move at all? Ron sounded amazed. Weird. Harry stared at Dumbledore as Dumbledore sidled back into his picture on his card and gave him a small smile. Ron was more interested in eating the frogs than looking at the famous witches or wizard cards, but Harry couldn't keep his eyes off them. Soon, he had not only Dumbledore and Morgana, but Hengist of Woodcroft, Alberic Grunion, Circes, Paracelsus, and Merlin. He finally tore his eyes away from the druidess Cleonda, who was scratching her nose to open a bag of Bertie Bott's ever-flavored bean. You want to be careful with those, Ron warned Harry. When they say every flavor, they mean every flavor. You can get ordinary ones like chocolate, peppermint, marshmallow, marmalade. But then you can get other ones like spinach, liver, and tripe. George reckons he had a booger-flavored one once. Ron picked up a green bean, looked at it carefully, and bit into it. Blech. Brussels sprouts. They had a good time eating every flavored bean. Harry got toast, coconut, baked bean, strawberry, curry, grass, coffee, sardine, and he was even brave enough to nibble the end off a funny gray one. Ron wouldn't touch it. It turned out to be pepper. The countryside was now flying past the window and becoming wilder. The neat fields had gone, and now there were woods, twisting rivers, and dark green hills. All right, so we're going to stop there for now because this is getting a little bit really long. And we'll pick up tomorrow where we left off with the rest of chapter 6. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed the beginning of our adventure to Hogwarts on the Hogwarts Express. And I will see you tomorrow. Okay? Miss you. Love you. Stay safe. Bye, guys.